Now we are going to officially declare the competition open, the HALA Nigeria competition, HALA Nigeria Story Contest open. And I have the pleasure to call on Dr. Leke Pitan, Dr. Doyin Odubanjo, and my brother, Mr. Lawrence Ani, who will represent all of us who are journalists on this side. Lawrence.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to hear all that I've heard today. Actually, I have a lot of things that have been running on my mind, but I know we're in a hurry. The first one is that health is important. And as I think about that, I think that as a Nigerian, life expectancy for me is an average of 50 years, meaning that by 50 you should be buying a casket and all of that. Ordinarily, however, if I want to prolong my life by another 10 years, I can move to Ghana, and if you think about that, that is very serious, isn't it? That by 50 you should be dead. So any extra year above 50 in Nigeria, you should really celebrate, okay? But then you can increase it by just moving next door by at least 10 years. Now, the point is this: health is important, and the media actually dictates the agenda, of what tends to be important to us. What we tend to discuss, what the government tends to focus on is dictated by the media. Okay, so like Sisi said earlier, you make HIV important, you made polio important, you made corruption important, you made elections important because you talk about them, you put them there. And I'm thinking, yeah, why don't we put health on the same platform? If this thing is that serious, why don't we make it that important? Why don't we focus upon it? And I think that's what HALA Nigeria is about. And from what I've heard, what I was reading about the findings of the polls, for instance, what he's saying to us is that Nigerians are interested in health, they want to discuss it, they want the government to discuss it, but then are we presenting what they want, what they want to talk about? Basically, which means that we would report, for instance, on the new MRI machine bought, the new nuclear medicine machine that has been installed. But Nigerians really don't care. They want to talk about the malaria, the antenatal clinic, the woman who died from pregnancy. So the real key is, how do we report that? How do I report the basics and ensure that those basics actually connect to you and I? How do I report the malaria, the health attitudes in the hospital, the typhoid that keeps coming on again and again, and each time they go to the hospital, they tell them you have typhoid. Is it true that I can have typhoid again and again and again? Or why is this typhoid all over the place? So those are the issues. And I think this is important, this should be celebrated. How do we make health news front page news to sell the papers? I look at it in other parts of the world, say in the UK, for example, you find health news as front page news. So how is that possible in Nigeria? Is it possible to report it and then you think that it's worthy of note to put it on your front page and that people would actually buy it because of that story? So that's HALA Nigeria, and really we want to HALA Nigeria today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to commend HALA Nigeria and all its collaborators for this wonderful initiative, which I think will, serve to engage us, to challenge us as editors, to further challenge our reporters who are increasingly, getting hooked on the notion that news stories are important only when it's about politics, about what one politician has said, or what one governor is going to do, his promises and all that. It's reflective, even though we tend to say that the health stories are not being written as they should, they're not getting as much prominence. But I think it's just reflective of what ails the society, the media as an industry. We tend to see certain beats, certain desks, as merely perfunctory. We tend to select the best, move them to politics, move them to business desk and all that, and then those who are not as bright, we simply move them to places like education, health, and the rest of them. So this is something I think is quite commendable, and I pledge my organization's support, and and I really hope that someone from my organization becomes one of the winners. Thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the gentlemen of the press, since they said there are no ladies in the press, or gentlemen of the press, we've got to the critical point now where we need to sit down.
Please, I want to declare it officially. We need to
Local.
Sorry, sir.
Where's Essie?
Sorry, can we have the projector off? Okay.
Yes. So to the glory of God, and most importantly also, towards effective and impactful health reporting that will help act as a pathfinder towards taking healthcare to the next level, we here collectively launch the competition has been open now, and also launch the website of HALA Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, you can take your seats. Thank you. So, we're just going to take a few minutes to listen to you and to get feedback, comments, questions, whatever you want to say before we go to lunch. I know that many of us have deadlines, and so that's why we have, even though we didn't start on time, struggled to rush through this. So right now, we're just going to keep the microphone open. Originally, I was to call Tunde and Sisi to handle this, so I'm just going to ask them to quickly. Sisi, you just want to kick off with questions? I mean, open it so people can ask questions and make comments.
It's your turn. We'd love to hear from you. And there's a hand over here.
I think my name is Akinriti Kazim. I work with most of Nigeria. Honestly, today is a new chapter for Nigerian media. More importantly, for those who cover the health sector. It's important because we are gradually and effectively moving towards realizing the dream of being a professional. And I think what you have done today is rather a feeling for Nigerian journalism. Be that as it may, I'd just like to correct a new impression by one of our guests who says that probably the best journalists are moved into politics or business. In journalism, what is important first and foremost is your interest. It's not the business of an editor to decide that where you're going to go. But if you show passion and interest in a certain area, it's of course important for us to ask to go there. And perhaps, I think today we are having the best of the cream of our journalists, even in health reporting. Generally, what I think we are going to gravitate towards now is to ensure that we let us extend the frontiers of this competition, perhaps to upcoming journalists. I like to suggest we focus more in the schools of mass communications and see how we can grow and crop the next generation of Nigerian journalists who can report health effectively. You'll be shocked to see some of these young boys and girls who are ready to give it their best. For now, that would be my comments. Thank you.
Who else wants to say something? Love to hear from you. Don't be shy.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
My name is Binga Fatile. Yeah, it's not a very question, but we are actually expecting that you read out the website for us. I mean the website for HALA Nigeria.
Okay. The website is halanigeria.org. That's the website. Okay. Let me show it. The website is HALA. The website is HALA Nigeria.org. So we can therefore, those who on Twitter, the same thing, at HALA Nigeria. If you have questions, you can ask us via Twitter. For Facebook, it's also facebook.com/HALA Nigeria. So, well, that's one of the key channels where you can reach us. So this is the website, halanigeria.com, Twitter at halanigeria.org, halanigeria.org is the website. Twitter is at HALA Nigeria, or twitter.com/HALA Nigeria, and Facebook is facebook.com/HALA Nigeria.
Is there a particular email? I think you can reach any of us.
Particular email, yes.
Yeah,
to
there's
send
a
it to the-
HALA Nigeria
At
at ICFJ.org. HALA Nigeria at ICFJ.org. Yeah, International Center for Journalists, ICFJ.
Hello? Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. I'm very sorry if I was misconstrued. I do not mean to disparage, to disparage very, very brilliant health reporters which we have, the older ones. What I was trying to say is we are seeing an increasing tendency, where younger journalists who emerge, who come to the newsroom, it's a fact which we must acknowledge. We tend to send the interns, the younger journalists, to some bits which we tend to think are not as important, are not the sort that will increase readership. It's a fact we have to acknowledge. I do not mean to say that there are no brilliant journalists, but as they leave the newsroom, the younger ones who are coming do not show as much interest as they do, for politics, business, and the rest. But I have a question, really. According to the timeline, there's a date for pitching of stories, and then there's a date for submission. So what I think some clarification will be very necessary here. Now, if someone pitches a story, and then what the delivery time, I think it's just about 2 months, or perhaps less than that. I think it's a bit short. It's a bit short, and then you could pitch an idea. What if it turns out that you do not exactly the story that emerges is not exactly what you're pitching, because it's very possible.
Okay, let me quickly respond to that. When you pitch, we have a 2-week period where you will pitch your story. And of course, your story pitches, you say what the story you want to do is about, what it will, what gap it will fill, what will be the impact of the story, why that story is important. You say all that in the pitch. And then the team will look at the pitches, all the pitches, and will look at the stories that we think these are critical stories and they need to be told. Then, within that 2 weeks, when we have looked at the stories, we shortlist the stories that will now qualify for the competition. Then, for 6 weeks, during that period, we have 1-day camps to work with the journalists to do the stories. So you have 6 weeks to actually do the story. And I think 6 weeks is enough to do a good story. So between that time, some people can even do 2 or 3 stories in 6 weeks, depending on what it is and the facilities they need. But we will have both the innovative people and journalists, senior journalists attached to the reporters to help them walk through those stories, to mentor them to, it's their story, but we'll just provide mentoring to ensure that they do the story right. Because we want world-class stories that will stand toe-to-toe with stories anywhere in the world. So 6 weeks is the period that the stories will be done. And then after the 6 weeks, for that, it must be submitted on that deadline after 6 weeks. Then the judging process will take another 2 weeks before the results are released. So you actually have 2 weeks within which to submit your pitch, 6 weeks within which to submit your story after it has been pitched and certified as shortlisted. Then 2 weeks afterwards, you get the results. That's how it works.
I write for New Telegraph. I'm a member of the Health Writers Association of Nigeria. I think over the years, there's one, in the first place, I'm really thrilled to be here. In fact, what we have discussed here is a new level of health reportage to the people, and I believe it's really going to increase people's interest or engage them as we speak. I don't want us to lose sight of this particular issue, because since I've been reporting health, I noticed something. That is, we are putting the interest on the journalists, the reporters, the newsrooms. News is not news until it reaches the final consumers. And what are the attitude of consumers towards this news? I did a work on sickle cell. Over the years I'm AA actually, but I joined their club, I joined their group, whatever their event, year after year. Now I find out that I go for their social dialogue. I found out that the problem they have is the problem of disclosure, identification. Because when they disclose and identify, they are stigmatized. So you see people dying in silence. So even you, that is a reporter, you want to interview a sickler. She is a sickler or he is a sickler, but they will not give you any information about himself. You see, so I have given an idea about what I think is the challenge. I'm now trying to think how we can carry both the society, together with what is happening in the newsroom as well, so that there will be a good synergy in terms of people's reaction to our, reporting. Thank you very much.
We are asked to give a story, because your explanation here actually follow one-way traffic. Because one simple question my reporters will ask from me in giving out their best as regards this initiative is that they actually want us to know how to do it, how to go about it. Are we going to follow this simple pattern that actually go the way of the print media? We have TV, television house here, radio. The way we write our report is actually different. The print we follow, the pattern you just give, the infogram, audio, and some other thing you just given us here. How do we do it? Do you want us to do it in different ways? The way we write for radio, the way we write for television, pattern, and the duration.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very good question, and it is one that we actually discussed extensively. I think CC is going to pitch in to talk about radio and broadcasting. But let me just quickly say, I'm a judge on a couple of health competitions across the continent, because like you heard, I lead the African Health Journalism Association. And in one of those competitions, the overall winner was a health competition on reporting vaccines, vaccination and immunization. The person who won eventually was a television journalist from Nigeria. But one of the top people in that competition was a radio journalist from Ghana. You need to have heard the report. Every sound, because graphics also come alive in broadcast. On radio, it will appear to be the most difficult because on TV you can see visuals. But on radio, this guy was talking about vaccination days in one remote area in Ghana. And when he started, all I heard was the sound of motorcycle, vroom, 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 and then zoomed in, and then silence. Then I heard the tweaking of birds. Then I heard cocks crowing. He had arrived at the village. He took us to the scene with the sounds. So we can actually represent these things innovatively. And that's what we are looking for. What we have shown, I agree, is one track mind. It shows here. But what we're just using this to show that graphics are important in the stories. The world, I mean, we're all busy people. People don't want to read too many words. But they want to be transported to the scene of it. And even in Nigeria, there is a particular health program I watch. And I don't want to segregate and say, oh, this is better than that. But increasingly, I kept saying, this TV station is doing fantastic when it comes to health reporting. Because this reporter, once he or she starts talking, honestly, you will see, if he or she is talking about heart disease, quickly you will see an infogram of the human heart, or the human body, with tubes and everything, transparent. And you will see the blood flowing here. Then he or she will move to another shot and he will show a graph showing Nigeria and says this thing is more, and then you will see the light showing that area, that region of Nigeria. This is where this thing is more. Then I just follow he or she. Every time he or she is reporting, I follow he or she very closely. That is what we are looking for. So we can represent these things not only graphically in the newspapers, but through sound, through visuals, and we can make the same impact. The duration. Now, the person who won the vaccine contest did a piece on polio that lasted 3-point-something minutes, right? But in the same competition, there were people who made submissions of 10-15 minutes documentaries. So it's how quickly, how creatively the person is able to capture the story. So we're not looking at the duration, we're looking at the creativity, the information, the graphics, everything together, the innovation, and the engagement. After you have done this story, first of all, how do you get people? How do you source comments? There are people who will use crowdsourcing to get interviews into their stories. That's part of engagement. You go use your Facebook. Well, many of us have Facebook pages, but we're using them for other things. But we can use them professionally. So there are people who use, to crowdsource responses to their stories before they even, and then afterwards, you begin to, like Sean said, use all your platforms to ensure that your story is out there and get your likes, get comments to the story, get it, and then maybe as a result of the information and the voices you're getting back, you do a follow-up story. All those things will work. Thank you. Sisi, do you still want to say something?
And like Declan said, the sound is important. The sound takes you there. So you need to get out of the office. It's not just about writing a report that someone reads, which is a lot of what's on the radio at present. You need to go out to where the people are and get the story.
But to be fair, you have more of the top hierarchy than it was here. I feel, just as we used to do in those days, there's need to get the real field workers also to a seminar. To be fair, that will help quicken the process. All right? It takes some more effort, I appreciate, and they need to have larger number. You probably will need to approach the Health Journalists Association or something and get them. now that the leaders, the editors have been briefed, I'm sure they will cooperate and say, you go to that seminar, as it were. But there's need for it, all right? Because to be fair to them, it's the next level we are talking now. They may not be able to find the time to go to this website and go and enter for it, as it were, and report back to me. They probably won't do more than that. You know, so it's not really a training of TOT, training of trainers. You understand? There's need to get the field people to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll certainly do that. We're already doing that, but we will do more of it, just like you wanted.
Please feel free to call on any of us to brainstorm your story ideas, to talk through where you want to go, to talk through the ideas that you want to present. We're available, to ask for questions. If you think of any questions after the event today, please just shoot any one of us an email, and we'll be glad to help out in whatever way we can. We will come to you if we need to. So thank you so much for coming. We're just so happy that you were able to come here today.
Thank you. So we're very happy to have you. Thank you very much. Lunch is now served downstairs at the restaurant. And we can now proceed to the restaurant where we shall all have lunch. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.